Have you ever stopped to think about what your body is saying right now, even in silence? Yes, your body speaks, and perhaps it is screaming for freedom, for expression, for reconnection with something that the world has tried to make you forget. Your feminine energy, that subtle but powerful force that pulsates in every gesture, in every look, in every silence, full of intention. The truth is that many of us have been conditioned to hide this force, to control our bodies, to slow down our movements, to silence our emotions. But what if I told you that inside you there is a key, powerful, ancestral and intuitive, capable of opening a portal to a freer, more connected and infinitely more magnetic version of yourself? No, this is not self-help talk. It is science, it is psychology, it is energy. Body language is a bridge between what we feel and what we transmit. And when you learn to use it consciously, you activate a presence that transforms. And no, this has nothing to do with being perfect, but with being true. Your feminine energy is not something you need to learn. It is already there. It just needs to be awakened. And the first step towards that can be right now, by watching this video until the end, because what we are going to talk about here is not just about posture, it is about power, about unlocking what is already yours by right, your intuition, your sensuality, your fluidity. And to start, I want to know, if you feel like you need to reconnect with your essence, comment here, free. Let's see who is ready to truly free themselves. Feminine energy is a subtle but profound force, and understanding this can be the first step toward real transformation in your life. Contrary to what many people think, this energy has nothing to do with being weak, passive, or less. Quite the opposite. Feminine energy is receptive, yes, but it is not submissive. It is fluid, intuitive, sensitive, but at the same time incredibly powerful. It is like water. It seems calm, but it has the strength to shape rocks. It does not need to push, it does not need to shout, it does not need to compete. It simply, and therefore, it attracts. It attracts opportunities, glances, connections, and above all, the return of one's own truth. This manifests itself in the body in a much deeper way than we imagine. It's in the way you move, in the cadence of your speech, in the lightness or tension of your shoulders, in the simple act of breathing with presence. But here's an essential point, and this is where the growth mindset comes in. You can learn to access and express all of this. This energy is not an innate talent, reserved for a select few enlightened ones. It is a hidden potential within us. And the more you know yourself, the more you can access this strength. Carol Dweck, psychologist and creator of the concept of growth mindset or growth mindset, reminds us that skills can be developed, that nothing is fixed, that we are all capable of changing, growing, and flourishing with intention and practice. And this also applies to your feminine energy. Maybe today you feel disconnected, too rational, in automatic mode, trying to control everything, exhausted from doing so much. This is not a weakness. It is simply a sign that you are living more in survival mode than in your natural state of creation. And the good news is that this state can be reactivated. How? Starting with the body, through body awareness, internal listening, self-acceptance, and the deliberate choice to return to yourself. The feminine energy lives within you, even if dormant. And like everything that is dormant, it can awaken with the right stimulus. And the main one is self-knowledge. When you start to observe yourself without judgment, with curiosity and compassion, you start to find the points where you got lost, and you also start to remember where you are. Being authentic is not about inventory a new version of yourself. It's about to go back to be who you are, beneath all the layers you have learned to use as armor. Feminine energy is, above all, a reunion with your essence. And this does not happen in a hurry, nor with rigid rules. It happens when you allow yourself to stop, feel, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what do I really want now? This type of connection does not arise from doing, it arises from feeling, from allowing, from trusting. And yes, You can learn all of this. You can train your body and mind to open up again, like flowers that bloom after an emotional winter. You can choose every day to get closer to the woman you were born to be, more sensitive, wiser, more whole. With practice, with patience, with presence. Feminine energy is not a pattern that you need to follow. It is a space that you create within yourself, and this space, when activated, gives you back the lightness, clarity, and confidence that you may not have even remembered existed, but they were there all along, waiting for you. So, stay with me, because we're going to dive deeper into how to unleash this power in practice. You're not alone on this journey. And if something inside you started vibrating with these words, it's because you're ready. And just the fact that you're listening to this far already shows how much you want to reconnect with what's most true within you. Have you ever seen someone walk into a room and, without saying a word, make everyone's eyes turn to them? That person who seems to carry an invisible force, who makes the air around them change. That's posture with presence. And no, it's not about being the tallest, the thinnest, or the prettiest. It's about how you occupy your space. When you walk into a room with your back straight, shoulders open, chin slightly raised, and eyes steady, you convey confidence even if you're shaking inside. This posture doesn't deceive. It reveals. It reveals that you are connected to yourself, that there is an integrity between what you feel and what you show. And this is where the key to true feminine energy comes in: presence. A woman present in her own body doesn't need to say much to be noticed. And it's precisely this silence full of intention that magnetizes. Behavioral science has proven that our bodies shape not only how others perceive us, but also how we feel about ourselves. Carol Dweck has always emphasized that everything is trainable, including posture. If you grew up hearing, "Close your legs, sit up straight, don't draw," attention to yourself, it's likely that your body language has been shaped around the idea of shrinking and defending yourself. But this can be reprogrammed. With practice, intention, and awareness, it's possible to teach your body to take up more space, and not out of arrogance, but out of deservingness. When you move with presence, you're saying, "I'm here, and I deserve to be." And that completely changes the game. People notice, opportunities notice, and most importantly, you start to see yourself differently. Posture stops being armor and becomes an extension of your truth, a silent language that communicates power, femininity, and above all, self-esteem. Have you noticed how most of the women we admire have a posture that seems to dance with the environment? It's not a rehearsed rigidity, it's a confident fluidity. They don't enter asking for permission, but they don't rush in either. They simply arrive. And this happens because there is a coherence between body, mind, and emotion. They inhabit their own bodies with a confidence that is not shouted, it is felt. And you can build this. Start noticing how you enter places. Do you shrink? Do you walk too fast? Do you look at the ground? These details say a lot about what you believe you deserve. And the big change happens when you choose to change this narrative. When you train your body to open up to the world, you are saying to yourself, "I can be seen. I am enough. I don't need to hide." And this message, transmitted by your posture, is so powerful that it transforms relationships, environments, and especially your relationship with yourself. So comment here, presence. If you've ever noticed someone who dominates the environment just by their posture, or if you've ever felt this power pulsing through you, because yes, it's there, and maybe it's just waiting for you to stop. Take a deep breath, align your spine, and choose to show up. Have you ever felt that moment when someone looks you in the eye and it seems like time stops? A second of eye contact says more than an entire paragraph. The gaze is one of the most powerful expressions of feminine energy. It is direct, but gentle. It is firm, but welcoming. When a woman looks with intention, without rushing, with presence and without fear of being seen, she activates an invisible force called magnetism. It is no exaggeration to say that the feminine gaze is a true window to intuition. It communicates what words cannot reach, and more than that, it connects. In a world where everything is fast-paced and shallow, a gaze that lingers is an act of courage, of surrender, of connection, and this has enormous power because whoever holds the gaze also sustains their own essence. Eye contact is a silent way of saying, I see you, but also I see myself. It requires us to be present in our own bodies, to not shy away from the vulnerability of being perceived. And this is where a fundamental aspect of our energy comes in: intuition. The feminine gaze, when used consciously, is like an emotional X-ray. It feels before it understands. It reads before the words are spoken. Carol Dweck talks about the power of consciousness in the process of growth, and this also applies here. You can train your gaze to become more expressive, more truthful, more magnetic. This starts with presence. Instead of looking away insecurely, you look at it with gentleness. Instead of rushing contact for fear of seeming too much, you hold it. You allow yourself to be seen, because in this simple act of looking, you begin to regain your inner confidence. And this is something that everyone notices. A confident gaze doesn't need to shout. It simply does. And when you look like that, with soul, you don't need to prove anything. You just need to be. This presence in the gaze is a silent invitation for the other person to be there too, completely. And that's where the magic lies. Often, the deepest connection begins in the silence of a gaze held for a few seconds. This applies to relationships, to social settings, to the way you position yourself in the world. If you want to be heard, you first need to be seen. And if you want to be truly seen, you need to hold your own gaze. The secret is not in forcing an air of mystery or controlling your expression. It's in allowing your gaze to speak what your heart feels. This is vulnerability, but it's also strength. It's the perfect balance between the receptive feminine and the inner power that doesn't hide. And if you think you don't have this magnetic gaze, think again. This isn't a gift exclusive to some women. It's a skill, and like any skill, it can be awakened, developed, and expanded. It all starts with the decision to never take your eyes off yourself again. So, tell me in the comments, if you believe that the gaze is a powerful weapon, comment here, eyes that speak. I want to know who here has already understood that true connection doesn't start with words. It starts with a look. Have you ever noticed how our movements say a lot about our internal state? The way we walk, gesture, pick up an object, or even cross our legs. All of this communicates something, and most importantly, it communicates how we are inside. When you are rushed, tense, on automatic, your gestures become short, rigid, even abrupt. And this is not just an aesthetic issue. It is a direct reflection of the disconnection with the body. Feminine energy does not live in the frenetic rhythm of urgency. It flourishes in the space of presence. Smooth, slow, conscious movements do not mean weakness or passivity. On the contrary, they show that you are there, feeling each gesture with intention. This is magnetism. This is mastery. Carol Dweck always says that our body and mind are malleable, and this includes the way you move. You can train your body to slow down, and with that, access a more elegant, more sensitive, more powerful version of yourself. Softness, in this case, is intentional, and everything that is done with intention automatically becomes stronger. Today's world constantly pushes you to do too much, to rush, to deliver, to prove, and at this pace, you become hardened. Your body begins to respond as if it were always on alert. Tense shoulders, clenched jaw, fidgety hands. A woman who lives in this state for too long begins to lose touch with her own essence. Feminine energy by nature is fluid. It is like water. It flows, it feels, it moves lightly. But it does not lose direction. And that is why slowing down does not mean losing productivity. It means reconnecting. When you move with purpose, with presence, With awareness, you begin to feel the power to occupy your entire body. It is in this place that true elegance is born, which has nothing to do with social class or beauty standards. It has to do with a woman who chooses being present, who doesn't need to rush to be relevant, who knows that her own pace is enough. And that transforms everything, from the way you look in the mirror to how the world responds to you. Because yes, the world responds differently to those who move with intention. I want to propose a simple but profound challenge to you. Try slowing down your movements for just one day. That's right, one day. Pay attention to the way you pick up your bag, how you turn the doorknob, how you get up from your chair. Bring awareness to each small movement. Instead of rushing everything as if you were late for your own life, allow yourself to breathe between one action and another and observe. Observe how your mind quiets down, how your breathing changes, how the environment around you begins to perceive you differently. This is a change in frequency. You leave survival mode and enter presence mode. It's not about being a caricature or faking femininity. It's about being real. Your body already knows the way back. It just needs you to stop pushing and start feeling. Smooth movements are not artificial. They are natural when you are in connection with your center. And this center is where your most authentic feminine strength resides. When you slow down, you allow your soul to follow your steps. And this does not go unnoticed. This is what makes you unforgettable. So if something in you has already felt this calling, stay with me. We still have a lot to awaken together. Have you ever noticed how a confident woman touches the things around her? It's as if every movement is intentional, as if the simple act of touching her hair, adjusting a handle, or holding a cup reveals something deeper, self-awareness. And this has nothing to do with being rehearsed or forced. On the contrary, it's a natural fluidity that comes from intimacy with your own body. The way you touch yourself, how you occupy your space, how you move your hands, all of this is a silent language that reveals your internal state. When a woman has control over her own territory, her body, her physical space, her energy, she exudes presence. And this presence is felt in the smallest details. Women with strong feminine energy don't ask for permission to exist. They exist with grace, elegance, and respect for themselves. And this respect begins with small, almost imperceptible gestures, but which carry the weight of someone who knows their own worth. Touching yourself gently, for example, is an expression that goes far beyond aesthetics. It is a constant reminder that you inhabit a body that deserves affection, attention, and respect. When you allow yourself to gently touch your hair, caress your arm, calmly adjust your necklace, you are telling yourself and the world that you are comfortable in your own skin. This is magnetism. This is subtle empowerment. Touch, in this context, is not gratuitous seduction, but rather an expression of your inner connection. Carol Dweck talks a lot about the importance of awareness in building self-concept, and here it is no different. Touch reveals how much you perceive yourself, respect yourself, and welcome yourself. Women who are at peace with their energy are not afraid to take up space. They do not withdraw, do not compress themselves, do not hide. They position themselves with gentleness and firmness. They understand that their body is sacred territory and that each gesture is an extension of their presence. And what about personal space? This is one of the greatest tests of self-awareness. Do you allow people to invade your energy field? Do you back away every time someone gets too close, even without realizing it? Or do you maintain your territory calmly and without aggression? Dominating your space begins when you recognize that you don't need to shrink yourself to fit into the environment. When you walk slowly, sit with posture, gesture with presence, and above all, give yourself permission to exist fully, this changes everything. It's as if you've created an aura of respect around you, where anyone who approaches you already understands, even unconsciously, that they are in front of someone who knows their own worth. Feminine energy in this state doesn't need words to be perceived. It's in the small gestures, in the conscious touches, in the way you move in the world. And if this makes sense to you, comment here self-awareness. Let's see who has already realized that the simplest gestures are often the ones that say the most about who we really are. Perhaps, after everything we've talked about so far, you're feeling a little restless, not the restlessness of someone who's lost, but of someone who's awakening, because releasing your feminine energy isn't about becoming another woman, or following a manual with trained gestures or correct poses. It's about coming home to your body, to your rhythm, to your space. It's about understanding that your body language speaks for you, even when your mouth is silent. It's about knowing that your presence enters a room before you even say hi. When you learn to listen to your own body's signals, the way it tenses, contracts, expands, moves, you discover that it has always known the way. Feminine energy doesn't need to be conquered, it needs to be remembered, and this remembrance happens in the details, in the deepest breath, the most conscious touch, the most present look. Your body is your voice, it's your direct channel to your most authentic strength, and when you reconnect with it, the world begins to truly hear you. Perhaps for the first time in a long time, you'll start to see yourself with more tenderness. You'll start to realize that the way you move, look, touch, be, all of this is part of who you are. It's not about imitating an externally imposed ideal of femininity, but about recognizing the subtle power that you've always had inside. Carol Dweck teaches us that our mindset shapes who we become, and this transformation begins with a thought. What if I didn't need to change anything? Just remember who I already am. What if your feminine energy was already alive, just waiting for a little more space to express itself? By accessing this awareness, you don't just empower yourself, you inspire other women around you. Because when one woman comes back to herself, others feel the call. And this creates an invisible network of awakened women who look at themselves with less judgment and more love, who move with more intention, who touch themselves with more respect, who occupy their bodies and their spaces with dignity. That's what we want to create here. A community of women who know the power they carry, not to compete, but to flourish. So now I want to invite you to look at yourself with more presence, more compassion, more respect. Really, take a deep breath. Feel your body. Do you notice how it sustains you every day, even when you forget to take care of it? This reconnection doesn't have to be grandiose. It starts with the simplest gesture, with the gesture of looking at yourself with affection, adjusting your posture, speaking more slowly, touching your own face gently. It's these small movements that reactivate the great power that lives within you. And if this video made you look at yourself with more affection and intention, comment here. I am feminine energy. I want to see who is ready to not only listen to their body, but to allow it to speak loudly and clearly, with elegance, strength, and truth. Like and share with that woman you love, the one who may have forgotten the power she carries in her own body and who just needs a gentle reminder to find herself again. Let's create this space together where feminine energy is not theory. It is living practice, it is daily expression, it is a silent revolution that begins in the body and transforms everything around it.